Hello there. Welcome once again to another English language class. Today in our lesson, we're going to continue exploring comparison or degrees of adjectives. Remember in a previous video, we started the degrees or the comparison of adjectives. And in that video, we considered just two categories. The first one being the one that the adjective changes to the comparative and superlative form by adding er and est respectively. And the second category that we looked at was the category of those adjectives that change from adjectives to comparative and superlative forms by doubling their last consonant before adding on er and est to form the comparative and superlative forms. So today we're going to continue, and the categories we're going to look at today are three categories. Okay, the ones that the adjectives that end with y, and then their y changes to I, and then adds on er and est. And we're going to look at the category of adjectives that change to the comparative and superlative form by the use of more and most. And then lastly, we will consider the category of those that are considered irregular in their change. They do not take any of the forms that we consider. They just change in their own peculiar way. So those are the three categories we're going to look at in this video. So the first category here is that of adjectives that end with y. The y is the last letter, and for them to change to the comparative form or the superlative form, the y changes to I first of all, and then er is added. The y first changes to I, and then adds on er and est. So here are some, we're going to look at some examples of such words. We have the base words, which we consider the adjectives, and then the comparative and the superlative. So here are some examples of such adjectives. The first one here is happy. Happy. So if you notice, happy ends with the letter y, and then the comparison form of it, which is the comparative form, the y changes to I, and then adds on er. So you notice the y here changes to I, and then er is added. And then the superlative form happiest, the y changes to I, and then est is added. Okay, so the first one is happy, happier, happiest. Lovely, lovelier, loveliest. It follows the same rules. All these words we see here ending in y follow this same rule. The y changes to I, and then you add your er and est respectively. Lucky, luckier, luckiest. Wealthy, wealthier, wealthiest. Funny, funnier, funniest. Curly, curlier, curliest. Now remember what we mentioned in the first lesson, the earlier video. We said whenever you are using the superlative form of any adjective, you always add the when you're using it. For instance, you can say he is happier than his brother. He is happier. But if you want to use happiest, there must be the article the. The. You must use it before you use the superlative form. So it goes like, he is the happiest of them all. He is the happiest of the three brothers. This flower is the loveliest. But if it's lovelier, you just use it. This flower is lovelier than the other one. It's lovelier, but this is the loveliest. So remember to always use the article the when you are using the superlative form of adjectives. Okay, so the next category we're going to look at is that of adjectives that compare, that change to the comparative and superlative forms with the use of more and most. So the next category of adjectives we're looking at is that of those adjectives that add more and most to form their comparative and superlative forms. And this category is those that have 3 or more syllables. Categories of adjectives that have 3 or more syllables, they form their comparative and superlative forms by adding or using more and most. What do we mean by 3 syllables? Like when you pronounce a word, if it is pronounced with one, just one way, like let me see, happy, for instance, happy, it has 2 syllables. A word like responsible, it has 4 syllables. A word like excellent, that is 3 syllables, excellent. So such words that have 3 syllables or more syllables, when they are changed to the comparative and superlative forms, they use more and most. So some examples here are beautiful, you have more beautiful, most beautiful. Brilliant, more brilliant, most brilliant. Excellent, more excellent, most excellent. Reliable, more reliable, most reliable. And then sensible, more sensible, most sensible. So these words here, 3 or more syllables. So you find out that they change to the comparative and superlative forms by using more. Now there is another category of adjectives that use more and most again. We are going to look at that briefly before we look at the irregular ones. So the other category of adjectives that also use more and most to form their comparative and superlative forms are those adjectives that end in FUL. Adjectives that end in FUL. For example, careful. The comparative form is more careful and the superlative is most careful. Words that end in FUL, they use more and most, whether they are less than 2 syllables or more than, less than 3 syllables or more than that. Once they end in FUL, they almost all the time change by using more and most. So you have careful, more careful, most careful, helpful, more helpful, most helpful, useful, more useful, most useful, joyful, more joyful, most joyful, and merciful, more merciful, most merciful. Okay, so these are the second category of adjectives that change with the use of more and most. So the last category we're going to look at in this lesson is the one we consider the irregular adjectives. We call them irregular because they do not have a particular pattern of changing from the base word or the adjectives to comparative and superlative. Like the ones we have considered earlier, we have certain patterns for those words. But this one, they are words that just change without any particular pattern. So they are categorized as the irregular ones. We're going to look at some of the examples. So the first one here is good. So the comparative form of good is better and the superlative is best. You can see that there's even no resemblance between the base word, that's the root word good, and the comparative and superlative form. They are totally different. So that's why we call them irregular. There's no rule that, applies to them here. The next word here is bad. The comparative form is worse and the superlative is worst. Far. is another word here. And then for far, you have farther, farther, and further. Farther, F-A-R-T-H-E-R, and further, F-U-R-T-H-E-R. Now, they are almost used to express the same thing, but there is a difference. Like the F-A-R, the farther, is used when you are talking of distance, like physical distance. Like your house is farther than mine from the school. So farther with the AR and the farthest, they are used to measure physical distance, while further and furthest, most times they talk about gaps, something that relates to gaps. He went further in his research than he was asked to do or he was supposed to do. So this one does not really refer to physical distances. That's the UR, the further. Okay, so just take note of the difference. Then the next word here is many. You have many, more, most. Many, more, most. And then much. Much also changes to comparative with more and the superlative most. So many, more, most. Much, more, most. And then the next one here is little. Little, the comparative form of little is less. And the superlative is least. Little, less, least. And the last one we have here is well. Well, better, best. So these are some of the words that we consider as irregular because they have no particular pattern of changing to the comparative and superlative forms. So hope you learned something today. This is where we are going to call it a day. So hope to see you again next week. Till then, stay safe and stay blessed.